Welcome to Stuff They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School. Have you ever felt really alone? Just all alone and lonely. If that feeling continues on, it's not a good feeling. Mark will portray Jesus Christ in this passion story as being all alone. Mark will show you that there was nobody there around him. There was nobody there who stood up for him. Jesus will deal with this, with his trial, his suffering, and his death all by himself. In effect, Mark is showing you the nation of Israel, all her hopes and dreams, reduced to one person, the Son of God, Jesus Christ. And so you'll hear phrasing that talks about Jesus being Israel reduced to one, and probably Mark, more than any other gospel writer, will make that point that Jesus is all alone in this thing. We're told after they finished the Lord's Supper, they sang a hymn and they went out. They went out to the Mount of Olives, which really is just down into a ditch, the Kidron Valley, and just very little ways up the side of the Mount of Olives, right adjacent to the temple almost. And they go out there to pray. And immediately becomes obvious Jesus is all alone. Because when he checks back with his disciples who are supposed to be praying with him, they're sacked out. They're zonked, they're tired, and they sleep. Jesus' prayer is an interesting prayer to me. He prays in verse 36. He said, Abba, Father. Abba, Daddy is really probably the best translation for that. Daddy, or Dada, even. I'm a little kid. Daddy, Father. You can do anything. All things are possible. Remove this cup from me. He sees what's coming. He says, I know that you have all power. Let's not do it this way. Let's not do it this way. Yet, not what I will, but what you will. And the intensity of this prayer must have been incredible. To know what's coming later that night, to know what's coming the next morning and the next day, to know that you've got nearly 24 hours of hell, literally, and to say, gotta be another way. Let's find another way. The answer would come. It wouldn't be a voice. It'd be temple police walking up to arrest him. The answer is no. No other way. This is the way it's going to be. There's a lesson in there about prayer to me. If God will tell his own son no, there are some times he's going to tell me no. He told his own son no for the good of the whole world. He said, no, this is the way it's going to be, because this is the way I'm going to save all of humanity. And he's going to tell me no sometimes. He's going to say, Bruce, no. No. Because that's not what's best for you, and that's not what's best for the people around you. So no. I'm not going to do what you ask. Immediately, while he's still speaking, we're told in verse 43, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. These aren't Roman soldiers. These are temple police. Now the betrayer had given them a sign saying, the one I shall kiss is the man, seize him and lead him away safely. Actually, they know who Jesus is. They probably don't really need Judas to kiss the guy just to identify Jesus from the others. What they need is Judas to lead them to Jesus at a time when there are no crowds around him. The only people around him at this point in time are his disciples. And they're almost useless in terms of their defense of Jesus. Oh, one of them tries. In Mark's gospel, it's not named who tries. Verse 46, they laid hands on him and seized him, but one of those who stood by, and we know from other gospel accounts who this is, it's Peter, drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. I'm going to talk to Peter when I get to heaven, but you will not convince me that Peter was aiming for that guy's ear. I think he's aiming to split his head open. But you got to ask the question, what's a fisherman doing with a sword out there, and how good is he with it anyway? And obviously he's not very good. I think he misses his target and lops off the guy's ear. There's absolutely no point in cutting off a guy's ear on purpose. You just irritate him. If you want to kill him, you go for the center of the head, and I believe that's what Peter was doing. We're not told in Mark's gospel that Jesus told Peter to put away the sword. That'll come in another gospel account. We're not told that Jesus put the ear back on in Mark's gospel. That'll come in another account. We're just told that somebody, one of the disciples, we know him as Peter, tried to do something. And I guess Peter gets a little credit for at least trying something. They all forsook him and fled. Nobody stayed. A young man followed him with nothing but a linen cloth about his body. They seized him, but he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. Mark's the only one that records that, and some scholars suggest that that might be Mark himself, that that would be an important piece of the story if it was you that ran away naked. And I kind of resonate with that. I think you might be right. That might be Mark. They take Jesus before the high priest to try him. It's a nighttime trial. That makes it illegal. You could not do a nighttime trial according to Jewish law because there would not be enough people to come to the defense of the accused. This is a kangaroo court. The verdict has been made a long time ago, way back in the early chapters of Mark. They sought how to kill him. This is just a formality. And they bring in witnesses, but in verse 56, they can't get the witnesses to agree. And according to Jewish law, you have to get the witnesses to agree in order to condemn somebody. But since they're doing an illegal trial anyway, that really doesn't make any difference. Verse 60, the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus, "Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you?" But he was silent, made no answer. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" This is the key question for the Jews. Are you the Messiah? Jesus said, "I am." That's God's name out of the Old Testament. When Moses said, "Who am I going to say sent me?" God says, "Tell him I am sent you." And Jesus says, "I am." He uses the divine name. And he says, "You will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power, coming with the clouds of heaven." You're going to see me again. You're going to see me again someday, and it's when I come back. The priest tore his mantle, said, "Why do we need witnesses? You've heard the blasphemy." The punishment for blasphemy in the Jewish law was death, except they could not carry out that punishment. That had to be the Roman government that issued the death sentence. And at the end of chapter 14, we have this, maybe the saddest scene in the whole situation, in the whole passion story. Peter's in that courtyard, and people come up to him and say, "Hey, aren't you one of them?" No. Don't know him. Another person, "Yeah, you are. Well, you're one of them. I'm pretty sure you are." No, I don't know him. And then a maid, for crying out loud. A maid says, "Yeah, you are. You've got that Galilean accent. You're one of them." "Damn it, I don't know the man." We're told he cursed. And then he catches Jesus' eye, and he goes out and weeps. The Peter with the sword to split open a head, the Peter with the braggadocio, "Oh, these guys might run out on you, Lord, but I'm going to be there," crumbled, folded up like an old card table when the pressure was put on, and cursed and denied that he even knew who Jesus was. We're not going to leave it there. Jesus died for even that sin. He laid down his life for Peter, and he laid down his life for you and me. And we'll look at that crucifixion story in upcoming sessions.